The legal implications were discussed. We looked at all of this in the context of Town and Country Planning Act, interim zoning plans, etc. Planning implications were discussed. Participants were very upset about the rezoning of the land from open space to development land and the way this has been changed between one interim structure plan and the next. In one interim structure plan, it was all green, and in the next one, it was all yellow. And yellow means developable land. And how this was changed between one and the other, it's a question you have to ask your elected state representative. They felt that it was morally wrong for Patla to launch this project when it had not yet been approved. This places tremendous pressure on council to now approve the project. Prevailing densities and height controls were compared. Participants were shocked that calculations had included non-developable hill land. They wanted to know why on the plan, the hill, which as you all know, we're not allowed to develop, was stamped with the words Tanah Pemajuan Masa Depan. And that's a big question. Why, for those of you who don't understand that, it's land to be developed in the future. How can it be possible that that was stamped on the plan itself? They wanted to know why there's only been a preliminary EIA. For a project of this size, you need very detailed EIA, an environmental impact study. This has not been done. They wanted to know if the Hill Land Committee had approved proposed roads. There are proposed roads that go up the hills. The Hill Land Committee needs to meet on this. As far as we know, they have not. They were appalled by the deception portrayed when none of the tower blocks are shown. They wanted to know why a true model has not been submitted to council. The number of units here, besides the residential units, 14 million square feet of commercial space. As many of you know, there's already more than 1 million square feet of commercial space in Penang that's not been rented out. There's a lot of empty commercial space at the TNB, the EPF, the UMNO, Komta itself. A great deal of federal buildings and government buildings are empty. And they're building 14 million square feet of commercial space. Is this sustainable? The audience was very skeptical. Participants were disgusted at the way the press has been completely biased and the public have not been made and continue to not be made aware of the true scope and dimensions of this project. Participants learned that the top personnel of the main English newspapers are on the board of Abad Naluri. In case you don't know, we're now telling you. Reporters' stories and pictures of the true model have been rejected by all their editors. That's why you've never seen it in the newspapers. Some of the Chinese press were challenged at the forum. Let us see whether we see anything in tomorrow's newspapers. And some of the Chinese press were very brave and they actually showed the model, plus they reported on the forum. Participants reacted very negatively to the steel and glass twisted snakes iconic towers. Participants were shocked at the blatant lies told to the press by the foreign architect. They were also disgusted at the outright lie that 700,000 trees are going to be planted on this project. And she actually went on to say, and this does not include shrubs. We calculated, as any of you can calculate, council plants trees at 20-foot distance. Even a very small tree requires a 15-foot distance for a tree canopy. If you calculate that and you divide it into the site, if not one road and not one building was planted on anywhere in that site, you can put in 52,000 trees. Maximum, that means every part of that site is planted with trees, medium only, not big trees at all. She claims that 700,000 trees will be planted, and we're expected to believe this. Traffic was of great concern. Traffic implications and proposals were highlighted. Participants were all very skeptical about who was going to pay. Participants wanted to know why they had only calculated 1334 when they should calculate 2311 for low and medium cost units. We are told that council very often asks for more than 30% when it's a high-end development. Participants were shocked to learn that these were not going to be provided on site and were to be shifted to Rifle Range. They asked how many blocks would be coming up in Rifle Range. Participants were scandalized that the developer was presuming the MPP land planned for car parks would now be given up to him to fulfill his LMC requirements. Participants were offended by carbon zero claims. Participants wanted to have the traffic consultant's report available. No report has been made available to us, either EIA or traffic consultants. Participants wanted to know why the government continues to refuse to hold a public hearing. They talked about the Subang Jaya Sime Darby case, where the YDP in Subang Jaya held a public hearing. How many people? You got told how many people? 1,000 people turned up, and Sime Darby withdrew. Participants wanted to know, participants challenged the developer to show the public the truly horrendous scope of PGCC in all the newspapers, and then let the people of Penang decide. Participants discussed the coming general elections, transparency and accountability, and many participants stood up to talk about the Penang Hill campaign and the loss of Tun Dr. Lim Chong Yu following the Save Our Penang Hills. Some of you may remember it. Many of you may be too young to remember it. That was in 1980, 81, 82, I can't remember. But basically, Tun Dr. Lim wanted to develop Penang Hill, and the people of Penang said no. And Tun Dr. Lim lost his seat in the election. Obviously, this was a very clear message being given to the state government. The participants were appalled that every banner and poster we had put up had been ripped off by developers' musclemen. As soon as we put up these posters, some of you may have seen it, says this tree will be cut for the PGCC. And as soon as we put it up, they had little mud rumpit type people on motorbikes who went and removed them off. And we put up banners and they removed them off. The only ways we can keep those banners safe are within private property. So we're looking at people like you all, whether you would allow us to put up, or you yourself would put up banners that just say stop the PGCC. Many participants of all ages stood up to speak against the participant. One very prominent Datuk stood up to say in his 40 years of public service, he has never come across such a horrendous project in his life. They felt that the development is actually counterproductive. The two things that PGCC are talking about now is one, this environmental thing. Two, it will provide jobs. We ask about the jobs. We think it will be counterproductive because building jobs will be taken by foreign labor. The service jobs to service the end products are the kind of level of jobs that Penang is not looking for. Penang is looking for high-level, high-end professional, jobs. Not the kind of jobs that you have great difficulty and you have to look for foreign labor to fill them. So these are cleaning jobs and, servicing jobs. We're looking at environment, traffic, oversupply, pollution, lackluster markets. Participants clearly felt that what Penang truly needed for a better quality of life and to attract more visitors, investors, etc., was more green spaces and parks, cleanliness, safety, a more livable and a low-scale city with efficient public transport. If you read about carbon zero cities in the entire internet, the main thing they talk about is public transport. Carbon zero only works if you have a very good public transportation system. Not build more roads for cars, but actually don't build more roads. Work on your public transportation. We don't want more massive and intrusive high-rise blocks. The participants ultimately took an overwhelming vote to say no to the PGCC.